There are wounds you can't name anymore. They don't bleed, they don't show, but they still pulse under everything you are. It's that silent ache that feels like something was never resolved, never healed, and yet it keeps shaping what you choose, who you trust, and how you react. It's like an old cut that never truly closed, a hidden wound your mind preserves as if it were a secret proof of what happened to you. And the most ruthless part, most of the time, you don't even realize you're living from it. That's why some people trigger you instantly. That's why certain situations freeze your entire body. That's why some opportunities never move forward, not because you're weak, but because that old wound keeps pulling you backwards, like an invisible chain. Your mind believes that protecting the pain is safer than releasing it. And that's where the real trap starts. Because what paralyzes you today is not the original event. It's the echo of it, the shadow of it, the emotional memory that refuses to die. And here is the most painful twist. You think you already moved on. You convinced yourself the past is over, but your mind never let it go. Before we go any further, I want you to do something that most people never have the courage to do. Admit that you might not be as healed as you tell yourself, because the wound you hide is the wound that controls you the most. And if your mind is still emotionally reacting to something that happened years ago, then it's still alive. It still has power. And tonight, we are going to expose it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Your mind will try to escape. It will try to distract you. It will try to click away the second this becomes too honest, too raw, too real, because that is the defense mechanism that protects the wound. Most people never break this cycle, because they always leave right before the revelation appears. So before we continue, lock yourself into this process. Don't just watch a video. Commit to confronting the part of you that still bleeds from a memory you pretend doesn't matter anymore. And the way you do that is simple. Subscribe now, so you don't run, so you don't disappear when it gets intense, so your mind doesn't choose the comfortable escape. Because the moment you feel the impulse to leave is exactly the moment we finally reached the truth. Subscribe, and don't let your mind run from this. Some wounds don't scream, they whisper. They hide in micro moments. They appear in tiny reactions you barely notice, like the way you suddenly shut down when someone raises their voice, or the way you instantly mistrust warmth because you assume there's manipulation behind it, or the way compliments feel suspicious, like traps. These are not random behaviors. They are the fingerprints of the wound you never processed. Your mind didn't forget. It adapted. It built behaviors to protect you from ever feeling that original pain again. And that's why the past still shapes your present, not because you consciously think about it, but because your nervous system responds before you can think at all. The wound became a filter. Every situation is subconsciously compared to the original betrayal, rejection, humiliation, or abandonment. That's how you sabotage opportunities you secretly want. That's how you avoid commitment while craving connection. That's how you become strong but emotionally unavailable. That's how you become independent but deeply disconnected. You call it personality, but it's a defense. You call it preference, but it's trauma logic. And the tragic irony, the wound made you feel safe by keeping you far away from the one thing you actually need, real intimacy. Because safety became avoidance, and avoidance became identity. Your mind doesn't protect you by healing the wound, it protects you by hiding it. This is why emotional pain doesn't vanish with time. Time doesn't heal. Avoidance just delays the explosion. What your mind actually does is create an internal narrative that makes the wound reasonable. It invents logic to explain your distance. It creates justifications to defend your numbness. It trains you to believe that disconnecting is maturity, when in reality, it's fear wearing a philosophical mask. And slowly, the wound becomes a worldview. You stop believing in trust because someone once shattered it. You stop believing in love because someone once mishandled your heart. You stop believing people care because someone once left when you needed them the most. And so your mind rewrites your truth, not to harm you, but to prevent the repetition of pain. But here's the catch. In trying to protect you, it also imprisons you. because the same mental walls that keep danger out also keep connection out. The wound doesn't stay in the past. It becomes the lens you use to interpret every human interaction. And without noticing it, you start rejecting what you desire to avoid what you fear. This is why healing is not about forgiveness or forgetting. It's about dismantling the invisible belief that suffering is safer than vulnerability. Modern life makes this wound even more dangerous, because today you can live entire decades without ever being emotionally exposed. You can hide inside productivity. You can perform strength. You can drown in distractions. Scroll, work, grind, pretend. And because the world rewards efficiency, not vulnerability, your emotional numbness looks like discipline. Your avoidance looks like focus. Your isolation looks like independence. The hidden wound becomes socially acceptable. You get praised for being unbothered. You get admired for being cold but competent. You get validated for being self-sufficient, even though deep down you crave someone who finally sees past the armor. This is why nights are the most dangerous. Because when there is silence, when there are no tasks to chase, the wound wakes up. That's when the emotional memory returns, like a ghost that never learned how to die. And you feel that ache in the chest that you can't explain to anyone. You tell yourself, I'm fine, but your mind is not fine. It is exhausted from carrying a pain it never processed. The wound became part of your personality, and if we don't dismantle it consciously, it will continue to shape your entire life story in the shadows. Here's the heartbreaking twist most people never see. The wound doesn't want attention, it wants resolution. It's not trying to ruin your life. It's trying to protect you in the only way it knows. The problem is that emotional protection from the past becomes emotional self-sabotage in the present. Your mind keeps expecting the same injury again, so it responds to imagined threats as if they were real. That's why you reject people before they get close. That's why you end conversations that feel too honest. That's why you prefer control over connection, because connection requires uncertainty, and uncertainty feels like danger. Healing won't come from pretending you don't care. Healing begins when you finally admit that something inside you still hurts, and that pain deserves to be seen, not suppressed. The wound needs to be understood, not avoided. So here's the real question. If the wound is still alive inside you, who are you becoming because of it? When you look at your friendships, your relationships, your patterns, can you honestly say you're choosing freely? Or are you still choosing from fear? Because nothing changes until you stop acting like the wound is your identity. You were not born cold. You learned to be cold. You were not born distant. You built the distance to survive. But survival is not living. The wound taught you how to protect yourself. Now you must learn how to open again. Healing is not about going back to who you were before the pain. It's about becoming someone who can finally live beyond it. And the moment you decide to look directly at the wound stops controlling you. The wound that shaped you is not a life sentence. It was a moment, a painful, unforgettable moment, but it doesn't deserve to be your entire identity. You don't need to keep living inside the echo of what once broke you. You can finally choose a new internal narrative. Healing begins the moment you stop hiding from what hurts. And if tonight you felt pieces of this truth inside your own chest, then you already know this video wasn't random. Your mind brought you here, because it's time to face what still bleeds. Now answer this in the comments. What wound from your past still shapes how you react today? Your awareness is the beginning of freedom. Your honesty is the first step into your next evolution. And when this video ends, don't disconnect. Watch the next chapter in this journey. Gives the dopamine loop. Your mind is hooked. Subscribe. Stay. Don't run from what wants to heal.